All right, so hopefully you're enjoying the whole series on 110.3 and the safety plan, or the safety program with Derek Vigstol and I. This session is an interesting one because it's on 110.3D, awareness and self-discipline. Awareness is kind of easy to understand, but self-discipline, how do you build a safety program that instills self-discipline? I think you're going to enjoy the discussion that Derek and I had around that very difficult concept of a safety program influencing and changing self-discipline. Very important for safety. I hope you enjoy our discussion. All right? Enjoy the program. Here with Derek Vigstol. Okay. The next one in D, we're in D, awareness and self-discipline.
How do you do this?
Well, it's very easy.
I've always struggled.
All right, let's read it. So the electrical safety program shall be designed to provide an awareness of the potential electrical hazards to employees who work in an environment with the presence of electrical hazards. So I do what I call a safety awareness, hazard awareness course. We just basically, 50 volts and more. We explain what shock, explain that, this circuit could be 50 volts, but there could be other hazards in and around there. So You understand when you can get shocked, when an arc flash could occur, all that good stuff. So that's I think that's training and education and in building it. So now, the second sentence is the program shall be developed to provide the required self-discipline. The program shall be developed to provide the required self-discipline for all employees who must perform work that may involve, you have to provide self-discipline. I don't know how wait a second. Is this like vitamin L, right? Is this like you go to the doctor, hey, you need vitamin D for SD for self-discipline.
Right.
Self-discipline, I don't know how.
So here again, I think is where when they crafted this up, they weren't talking about a piece of paper. The electrical safety program is the overall
culture.
It's the culture piece. Because how do I develop a piece of paper that makes my employees have the required self-discipline to follow the rules?
So self-discipline is, in my opinion, what you do when no one's looking.
Right. Because, and you know as well as I do, you've been around this stuff long enough. The vast majority of any electrician that was taught before 70E became a big part of the conversation. When their back's against the wall and time's running short and nobody's paying attention, that book gets put down on the bench, and they go back to the way that they learned from the guy that has been doing it for 50 years, started electricianing before OSHA was a thing.
So you know what? Here's how I like this. I'm going to give you an example. When I was a kid, forgive me, my one cousin, loved the guy, great mentor. I didn't realize till years later how great of a mentor he was for me, but he bought a pickup truck. And whenever he bought a new pickup truck, the first thing he did was cut the seatbelts out. Okay? And all they provided back then was just a little lap belt. Right? So he would take those seatbelts out. Never had a seatbelt. We would ride in the back of the truck. Okay. I used to love riding. My uncle had a dump truck. And we would ride looking over the top of the dump truck. And he would hit those roads and it was like surfing. We would stand in that bed because we knew where we were going to the job site. And when he was coming, he would go over and we would see how long he would stand there, right?
Right.
So we did things back then that since then we've learned are not good, right? We've learned that seatbelts are important. We know the statistics and blah, blah, blah. Now, when you get in a car, do you buckle up when there's nobody else in the car?
Every time.
I'm the same way. Yeah. In fact, I don't feel comfortable driving without a seatbelt on.
Yeah.
Okay. So in my opinion, we've achieved we've
Self-discipline.
achieved self-discipline when it comes to seatbelts. Now, I would overlay not only the education and the fact that you can't buy a car now that doesn't have the I would overlay that with the law too.
Right. Well, but yeah, so I use this example. This is a great example. I use it in the risk assessment conversation every time that I teach a class because people struggle with the concept of risk assessment. Surprise, surprise. So what I say is you do a mini risk assessment every time
Yeah.
that you get into the car, and the risk assessment is whether or not you want to put your seatbelt on.
Yeah.
And even though you might say, well, Derek, I haven't had to think about putting my seatbelt on for 15 years.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But 15 years and a month ago, you did.
That's right.
And so like I got my license in Minnesota. They didn't have a law in the books requiring us to wear a seatbelt.
Yeah.
Um, it was something I heard rumors they could give you tickets for, but there wasn't really a law in the book. And then all of a sudden the seatbelt law passed. Well, I had a 78 Malibu, and this was one of the early models that had the dummy bell, right?
The dummy bell?
Yeah, if there was weight on the seat and the seatbelt wasn't clicked, it just
Oh,
went.
okay. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
as a 16-year-old kid, I figured out a way around that. You just buckle the seatbelt before you get in, and then you sit down on the seat, no problem, right?
You didn't hear that here.
Oh, yeah, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Okay, but we can learn from past mistakes. Some of the best safety instructors are the ones that made the mistakes.
That's right.
But so it was. I mean, that's how I grew up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden Minnesota passes this law, but they didn't make it a primary offense. They made it a secondary offense.
Yeah.
So if you got pulled over for speeding
And you didn't have
your seatbelt on, you could get a ticket. Well,
yeah.
Well, lo and behold, I'm a young kid with a Malibu with a very healthy engine in it. Didn't take long for me to get pulled over for speeding.
Ouch.
And to find out the hard way that there was this new seatbelt law in place. And the ticket was pretty expensive. I think it was around $250 on top of the speeding ticket.
That's back in the 60s.
I'll make you feel good. Yeah, the 60s. Yeah. I was driving a 78 Malibu in the 60s. It was great.
It just dawned on me.
But it was I figured out real quickly I like $250 a heck of a lot more than I like driving around without my seatbelt on. And so, my consequence there was a financial injury. It wasn't a physical injury. I didn't get in an accident without my seatbelt on. And but I had a financial injury, and as a broke high school kid, that was a pretty big deal. Plus I'm in all the you're on it for 3 weeks kind of thing and all that stuff. But I started putting my seatbelt on because I didn't want to go through that again.
And it's an enforcement. It's a, like you said, it was a financial one, but in that case, it's still a legal thing. It's still a law that somebody is enforcing. And when you think about here, you have an owner who has to have an electrical safety program. And you're going to have to raise the awareness of the hazards to your employees, and you have to develop
system for self-discipline.
And so I think that in some cases, I've talked to various safety directors, and they say what they do is they'll do they go to job sites and they watch their guys and gals in the field. Right. And they flag near misses, and they empower each other to call each other out. Because in some cases most cases, if you and I are on a job site and our boss isn't there, and I'm going to do something haywire, you need to speak up, and you need to say, hey, no, we're not doing this, and have the ability. So my discussion with Vince was about that ability. If you and I are working on a project, okay, and I see you do something, or you walk in I'm working on a project and you walk in my space, and you're not qualified to be there. I need to have the self-confidence, self-awareness, and the ability to say, no, you need to leave.
That's a big one.
And it's very difficult because you have the peer pressure thing going on. You might have the boss. It may be my supervisor just walked into an area and I know he is not on the list. He hasn't been prepped. He's not qualified to be in this space right here because he just walked through my tape. And I'm going to have to tell him or her, get out.
Oh, my client.
Or your client. Yeah.
That happened to me.
Really?
That happened to me once. I was troubleshooting a 480 MCC that had failed. It was for like a pool filtration system, big like Olympic sized pool, not somebody's backyard. But the CEO of the company that owned that facility came in because his office happened to be upstairs. Came downstairs where the MCC was located. Just came to see what we were doing.
Yeah.
And it tapped me on the shoulder. I'm dressed in a 40 cal suit.
Oh, man.
And I've got my hands like in the thick of it. And he comes and taps me on the shoulder and goes, "So what are we looking at?"
Wow.
And I had never been personally in an arc flash.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine what that must be like. And I hear all these stories about people doing certain things,
Sure.
bathroom related, in their pants.
Sure.
Needing to change of clothes.
Yep.
That was as close as I ever got to needing a change of clothes. That
Oh, yeah.
it scared the bejeebus out of me. And then
yeah.
on realistically, like I instantly wanted to scream and yell because I had heightened emotion state and I was just terrified. But then at the same time, I didn't want to scream and yell at him because he's writing me the check at the end of the job.
Wow. So now you're between a rock and a hard place.
Right. So how do you tell somebody whose mentality is I can go anywhere I want to go because it's my building? Like,
Yeah.
it's
Get out.
easy to tell somebody who doesn't know the equipment or my supervisor or something like that. But when they own the building and the space.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but if I see somebody dressed in a 40 cal outfit doing something, I ain't walking anywhere near them.
Yeah, but common sense isn't so common anymore, you know?
But it's not.
Yep. And
But that is a challenge.
Yeah.
That is so, but that is a self-discipline that, I need to do the right thing when I'm alone, but I also need to make sure that when I'm with my buds, we're not going to be pushing each other. It's not hey, I bet you can't do that energized.
Well, and I think it's too, and again, I'm going to throw the word out there, but we're not going here yet. But as a qualified person,
yeah,
it is your responsibility to take that on. Just like we say, as a journeyman electrician, it is your responsibility to look out for and to teach the next generation.
Yeah,
as a qualified person, that is part of your job.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I would say, even as a design engineer, I may not be on a job site, and I could argue, well, your design is not, your awareness is self-discipline, but I would argue it is. I mean, I would say if I'm going to design a power system, I want to design it in a safe way. I want to make sure I got to think about safety, some aspect of safety. And if there are requirements, I might be in a facility that I don't have to follow the 2023 code. I can follow a 1960 code, but maybe I follow the 2023 code in my design because of what we've learned about the hazards.
Yeah.
Back to that other discussion.
Yeah.
I like it. That is a challenge. Awareness and self-discipline. The program shall instill safety principles and controls. So you have to have some sort of controls in there. And I think monitoring and
so the principles, I mean, what is my safety program? What is my culture based on?
Right? Yeah.
And that's going to typically be things like we don't do hot work, or we don't do energized work, or we only do energized work when it's absolutely justified, or things like that. But then the controls piece is the following up on it.
Yeah.
Because you write all the stuff down on paper you want, but if you don't have something in place that's a part of the program to follow up on it, to make sure that you've been doing it the right way, and make sure that your program is successful, then what was the effort on the front end for?
No, you're absolutely right. I like it. Right. Awareness and self-discipline. Tough one. But not much more. What else are we
I
missing?
mean, short of, I think you got to hold your employees. I mean, the self-discipline piece is always something we struggle with, right?
Yeah,
But I think it's something you just got to hold your employees accountable for it.
accountability,
And
checks and balances.
what we're going to get into is the auditing. And when you see something, say something, and yeah,
Yeah,
don't let it continue to go on. So many places I go, and there's the tongue-in-cheek joke about like, oh, well, that's just old TJ. He's been on the job for
oh yeah,
he's been here since they opened the plant. He originally he was on the construction team that built the plant, and he just stuck around. And we decided, well, we should probably give him a paycheck, and he's been there that long, and it's just he does things his way kind of mentality. But that's not okay because TJ's going to get me hurt.
That's right. Yeah,
TJ's going to get you hurt.
yeah.
And if we aren't saying something,
Yeah, you're right.
we're all in that bucket.
You're absolutely right. All right, beautiful. That is D. You want to go to E? Or what do you want to do? You want to take a break?